Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Supplier Discovery Day. This series, we're kind of focused on marketing agencies. Super excited to bring in Bill from Find8. They're doing a lot of stuff, kind of gaining a lot of traction in the franchising space, and excited to hear about their story, how they got into franchising, and really what their special sauce is compared to the other agencies in the space. So Bill, thank you for joining, and why don't you
Thanks for having
introduce
me.
yourself and Find8?
I'm Bill Shelton. Find8 is a full-service marketing agency. I've been with the company 15 years, one of the founders, one of the owners. And our primary owner and founder 15 years ago left a Fortune 100 agency in Chicago. And we came to Lafayette, Indiana, and opened an agency. We started off as Find8 started off as mostly web and search engine optimization, and we grew into a full service agency. Currently, there's not much we don't do. About the only thing that we don't do is sort of like TV production or radio production, but we would still do like a voiceover. And so when we talk about full service, I think in this era, we still look at most of the digital services because they tend to give you the best return on investment. But we also do billboards and tchotchkes, and typically we try to be a one-stop solution for just about any company that comes to us.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, be able to kind of, certain brands are going to want different things, and being able to kind of be that like jack of all trades is super helpful for brands that may not know exactly what they're looking for. So a lot of the time they come to you and say, let's maybe try this, and then you guys can give them insight on kind of what's worked with other brands.
We find that quite a bit. Oftentimes people, they've cobbled it together with independent contractors. But I'll tell every client this. I mean, we're a good marketing agency for you. And in a year from now, 2 years from now, and 3 years from now, we're going to be better because we've taken that deep dive into your brand, into your successes, into your failures, and we know what we're talking about at that point. So as opposed to educating every independent contractor on what, where you've been, what you've done, we try to be that. And some of our clients have been with us for 15 years.
And that shows a lot, especially, with marketing agencies, it's a big lift to change anything. So I think the key for anyone listening, is to find your perfect match and, find the one that can be a true team member for your brand, and they will grow with you. And that being said, you'll be clients for 15 years. So that's I love to hear that.
We've tried to set everything up for long-term clients instead of, a lot of graphics houses, right? They tend to churn and burn, in part because they have a graphic voice. And then at some point, if you've sort of used that up, if you're done with that, then the only way to get something really new is to move on. They know it, the clients know it. And so, but that would not be us at all.
Awesome. So curious, I want the audience to hear kind of like how you guys got into franchising, because a lot of the time it happens on accident. And I'm curious if that's the case for you guys, and really franchising is a very interesting space, but what really got you into the franchising space?
We're kind of a tweener, right? We didn't get into it on accident, but at the same time, a little serendipity did help us out. So one of our early clients was in our town, and they owned a print shop, right? And they were a franchise. They were a member of a franchise print shop. And the franchise print shop had a really tough time with their marketing in general. So they were small enough. They weren't doing national advertising on TV or anything like that. What they were doing, most of their marketing was web and search. And because they were a print shop and did car wraps and stuff like that, we had shared a lot of business with the owner, got to know him, and finally said, let us have a crack at it. and he found an exception in the franchise agreement, and we were able to do his website and his search engine optimization. And pretty quickly, we were just destroying his competitor. And then pretty soon, everybody in the franchise knew about how much better we were doing. So at one point, then they were going through a CEO change, and we thought it would be a good opportunity for us to have the potential to go in and be the marketing company for the franchise. So we actually partnered with one of their old companies that did websites. We took a nice plan. We got a great deck. We went and chatted with them. And the new CEO had a company that he had worked with in the past. So we were never getting that business. He already knew who he was using to begin with. So, but that made us start to, that first of all got us in, and we realized some of the pros and cons of franchising in the world and being in marketing and involved in it. And we started to examine it as a potential growth strategy for Find8. Because we were at a point where we had sort of mastered our local market. We had the clients we were going to have. And if we were going to get bigger, we were going to have to move outside of Lafayette. And we still, to this day, have clients across the country. But we were like, how do we continue to do that? And so we were either looking at franchising or becoming every little town's Find8. And so after going through some of that franchising, what we really felt was our biggest strength was those local businesses. And what is a franchise but a collection of local businesses, buying services as a group? So we felt like, we had developed these muscles being a local marketing company, and how best to show them off by doing it at the franchise scale with that franchise scaling option. The other thing too, is as we grew our agency, we understood that the branding side of our agency was never going to have a real chance to flex its muscle unless we did something like a franchise. Because the local one-man shop plumber, first of all, he probably doesn't care about branding that much. And if he does, he doesn't have the resources. So if you're going to get somebody that's going to do an engagement like that, they're going to have to be somebody a little more mature, a little bigger, with a little more resources. I mean, every small business suffers from that same thing, right? They may have amazing lead generation, but their brand might be a little weak. And so, yeah, we, like I said, it was our engagement with that printer and the owner of the print shop, who we're still friends to this day, and how that worked. So, but then it became a thought process over probably a period of 3 or 4 years where we were trying to figure out what is our growth, what is our growth path? What should we really dedicate ourselves to? And we felt like franchising just was the best way to use the skills we had developed, other than, because almost becoming a franchise ourselves and opening little Find8s across the country, that meant that we really should be an organization that was great at hiring people, right?
Yeah,
it was a
and that's an
personnel-driven
issue
decision,
of
right?
its own.
And we felt that
And
local marketing was our strength. So we really felt the franchise thing was just a
love
much
it.
better avenue.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear that, because the key thing with any franchise, people who were not in it previously, like, they think of it as a big behemoth of an industry, but really it's a lot smaller than people think. Because, and I like your point of, you're striving to be good at localizing everything on the local level for each franchise location, and that's the key, and that's how they exponentially grow as a brand. And if you're good at local marketing, then franchising is the place for you. It's because it's gonna help them at a corporate level grow exponentially across all the franchisees are
Right.
happy, corporate's happy, everyone's making money, and that's the overall key.
And I did forget one other piece was
Mhm.
one of the things that gave us the confidence to do this kind of thing was we understand that when you're talking about a franchise, you're dealing with the local, make the local shop grow. And as an agency, we have that. But then also too, you have to deal with the franchise as a whole. Well, our founder, our primary ownership, Carla, she came from a Fortune 100 agency where she managed accounts like Mercedes. So she's swam in that pool. And so we know how to handle a big national brand, and we know how to handle small local. Now, I'm not gonna. Small local is our DNA. That's where we grew up.
Mm-hmm.
Is just we definitely do have the large national experience on board. But if you're talking about it, it's when it comes to local businesses, I used the analogy of muscle earlier. We do leg day every day. So
I love that.
We're out there making sure the local lead generation is working.
Never skip leg day. It's very important.
Right.
And that's a cool way to think of things, because that experience of working with companies like Mercedes, and then also having that more Navy SEALs approach and working with on the local level. It's important to have
Right.
both in your DNA, because a lot of the time, corporate franchise brands, like, they tend to be similar to these Fortune 100 companies. At the same time, you have to work with the local guy in, the suburbs of Chicago, or like somewhere
Absolutely.
in Michigan. Like, it's there's a lot of different characters. So being able to manage that and super important.
And I'm really fond of the way we grew up, because as you start to work with the corporate, I think some agencies get lost in all the zeros on the check. So corporate starts to steal all their attention, and the local shop starts to get pushed to the side. So for us, I feel like the way we grew up, with our strength being that franchisee, we're not going to get distracted. We're going to make sure that that their businesses are humming, and not get lost in the
100%.
corporate component of the marketing.
Totally. So got one more question for you.
Sure.
I want to dive into kind of what kind of makes you guys different. What's your special sauce? Obviously, there's a lot of marketing companies out there, but why would someone listening work with you guys?
I'll reference the owner of the Raptors, or not the Raptors, the Mark Cuban. There we go. I knew I had his name.
Yeah.
I had to drum it up.
Mavs.
Sales cures all, right? You'll hear him say it all the time. And we started off as a lead generation company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Small businesses, a lot of marketing companies will go to a small business and they'll say, you've got to work on your messaging, you got to work on your brand, you've got to have all the branding components down. Unfortunately, at a small business level, that what we found very quickly is that's a lot of money without an immediate return on investment. That return on investment is 10 years, 5 years. What we did is came in and we started with lead generation. The first thing you've got to do is get customers in the door, so that way you can afford this big branding engagement later on. Which is, I think, for a lot of agencies, that's really flip-flopped. I think a lot of agencies want to start with a brand. And so I thought our secret sauce was, it's kind of a big answer. The answer primarily being is we'll come in, especially with a new franchise, we focus on lead generation, right? We've got to get them business. If we don't get them business, they can't do anything else. They have to have those sales that cure all. With that being said, then I think if you look at the trickle down component of that, if we're so focused on lead generation, what is our, okay, so that's what you do. What's the tool to do it? And that's why, as an agency, we started in digital and site and search engine optimization. I think as an agency, I think we're comparable with a ton of agencies our size, with our number of people and our skill level, with the exception of search engine optimization. Search engine optimization, if I would feel comfortable going to battle with Fortune 100 companies. I could get, and if you told them that they had to spend the same budget as us, if you made us budget equal, I think we would kick their butts.
Yeah, and that's a key thing. Like SEO is a very, very important
Well, a lot of
aspect
people
to
are
marketing that
abandoning it.
really moves the needle. Yeah,
Yeah, a
and
lot
I
of
don't
companies are
understand
moving
it
away from it.
because us at FSN, like we put a lot of value in SEO just because that's the way people are organically really like seeing you guys. And like,
Yep.
like paid ads, like the whole mix is important. But like I think you made a key point of, lead gen, of course, that's the goal. But like to generate leads, what do you have to do? You have to have everything. You have to have the right messaging, the right
Absolutely.
branding, the right ways to get people through the door. So it's good to have, and that's the essence of what like a full service agency really is having it all.
Yeah. Well, when I talk to clients, I usually, when we start talking about search engine optimization, one of the things that comes out is a lot of agencies are banning it for ads. It's just easier, right? You don't have to have the continuing education. You don't have to invest in that stuff. However, our founder, that's a chapter in the book she wrote. She wrote a book on virtual communities, which was the infancy of social media. And in that, there's a chapter on search engine or optimization, trying to make sure that your community's found. And so that's something that we've been invested in for more than 15 years. That's 30 years, right? And so when we look at SEO, typically what I'll tell clients is like, look, it has pros and cons. But if you're the local whatever, I always say local plumber. That's my sort of go-to. If I'm the local plumber, somebody picks up the phone and types in, fix my flooded basement, and you come up first, you're probably getting that business. And the thing that I like about it too is it is definitely taking advantage of the lean forward marketing, right? These are people looking for you. They just don't know your name. Whereas ads, maybe they stumble across you. Maybe, it's a little softer, right? It's a little softer. These are people that absolutely were searching the terms that would lead to you doing business with them. And that way, when we look at it, I would put search engine optimization over a 5-year period. I would say it is your most bang for the buck, the most return on investment in marketing of everything. Now, I have to be careful because some businesses, SEO is just not going to be the key. However, in general, if I take all the businesses, I throw them all together and I compare it to all the marketing, search is going to be the one. That's going to be the thing that's going to have the best return on investment. Your money's going to be spent well, which is why site and search oftentimes, when you look at clients, is a good place to start. Now, as we work with larger clients, more often they come with good websites. In the old days, 15 years ago, I had to tell people they needed a website. So, but no, our secret sauce, I would say, is built into our DNA is lead generation, site, search, and then all the things that spring off of it, right? Both of Google's programs now with pay-per-click and pay-per-lead are really nice. And they usually with a client, I'll sit down and do a pro con. Right. What's your business situation right now? And based on that business situation, let's look at the pros and cons of all these digital marketing outlets and see where we need to go, see what's going to fit you. Because if somebody is purely seasonal and they shut down in the off season, search might not be the best bang for your buck. Right. So there are times. But in general, there's very few businesses that come in and search isn't part of the marketing mix.
Yeah, and to be honest, like just hearing you talk, like I think the key thing with you is like you listen, you have conversations with your clients and really strategize the best way, because not all brands are created equal, and they all have different strategies that will, in the end, generate leads and help them make some more money. And that's the key with any true partner, is to listen to their clients and strategize and analyze the best route for success.
Thank you.
So awesome.
We
Yeah.
did some of that on purpose. One of the things we did is try to move as many of our services as we could to more of a subscription. So that way, this is a long-term engagement. We don't have to nitpick about hours. We don't have to, all we know is we have a client, you're going to be our client for the next 20 years, and we're going to try to do what's best for you, as opposed to selling items, right? Like I don't want to sell widgets. I don't want to sell you a bucket full of search. I want to take on search, and I'm using search as the example because I think it's the best example of this. I want to sell you search the way your high-end financial advisor sells you your investment stuff. It's like, you give me the money and I'll make sure you're getting the best return on investment. And how am I going to do that? I don't know. Today it might be bonds. Next week it might be the market. After that, I might tell you to buy a piece of real estate. I don't know, but that's because I'm going to keep looking at it and keep working with it, and I'm going to steer you into the right direction. And if you just bought a product, like if you bought 10 hours of search from us and we sold that to you, then when those 10 hours are over, they may have been the most amazing 10 hours for that time period. But in 2 months, when Google changes the rules, that 10 hours might be useless.
Yep. And that's the key. And that's really the way you can truly impact a brand is being able to, think on your feet and be able to make changes at any time. And really being that true partner, like I said earlier. So, well, Bill, I really appreciate you joining. This was great, and I think it's a good way for people to learn about Find8 and how you can work with them. So, anyone listening, you can reach out to me or Find8 directly. They'd love to kind of talk through kind of how they can be a partner with you. Until next time, everybody. Thank you.